Welcome to Key Tech. Please describe this channel if you are interested in today's video. In the 1980s and 1990s, the United States completely controlled the global semiconductor industry and achieved comprehensive crushing in the design, development, and manufacturing of chips. However, excessive confidence gradually led to big mistakes. In order to increase the profits, American capital gradually shifted the asset-heavy manufacturing industry to Asia. The biggest recipients are naturally Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan province. From this, chip giants such as Samsung, TSMC, and SK Hynix were born. However, while the United States continues to infiltrate core technologies, these companies are also secretly starting to replace their own technologies, trying to get rid of the shackles of the US technology system. TSMC was just a little bit short of success. According to public data, in the 5nm chip process, the proportion of US technology has been lower than 7%. However, after helping Huawei to manufacture 5nm Kirin chips, it has attracted the attention of the United States. Under coercion and temptation, the two sides can only suspend cooperation. The United States is tempted by orders from American companies and huge subsidies, which eventually led to TSMC going to the United States to build 3nm and 5nm production capacity. However, the conditions promised before were not fulfilled. Instead, they were forced to hand over core data, and advanced technologies were also caught. This also directly accelerated the contradiction between the two parties. Morris Chang could only find ways to seek rights and interests. Morris Chang has always opposed going to the United States to build a factory, and he even said bluntly, "Going to the United States to build a factory will fail." But he couldn't get rid of the technology of the United States, and could only compromise step by step. Recently, in the face of news of new regulations, Morris Chang once again publicly bombarded the Biden team, and Bill Gates once again poured cold water. Where will this lead the chip rules? Morris Chang publicly bombarded the United States. With the further fermentation of the chip rules, TSMC and the Biden team are now in a complete showdown. At present, the latest rules have been announced, and the subsidy of $52 billion has been settled, of which $39 billion will be paid. The opening of applications in June may seem like good news on the surface, but in fact there are sinister and cunning hidden behind it. It stipulates, enterprises that receive subsidies exceeding $150 million will share the excess profits, but will not exceed 75% of the recipient's direct subsidies. After TSMC went to the US to build a factory, it has obtained almost all orders from US companies, and the overall proportion exceeds 70%. The revenue in 2022 has broken through a new high, with a year-on-year increase of over 42.6%. Obviously, according to this trend, it will definitely break through to the so-called excess profit level, which means that the 75% subsidy obtained will need to be returned later. But wanting to obtain this subsidy is conditional. The United States responded a long time ago, if you want to obtain subsidies, you must promise not to expand or build new production capacity in the Chinese market within 10 years. After all, Morris Chang couldn't help exploding. Regardless of the chip rules, he insisted on expanding the 28nm factory in Nanjing. At this stage, TSMC has sufficient technological advantages. Intel, the most advanced foundry in the United States, can only barely achieve 7 nanometers process manufacturing with high support. It is at least 3 to 5 years behind in technology. Highly dependent, so the Biden team does not dare to go too far in the short term, and Morris Chang can also strive for rights and interests as much as possible during this period. Morris Chang once publicly stated, "It is impossible for the United States to change the status quo of the semiconductor industry through capital development. It is undoubtedly a naive idea to quickly enter the complex chip manufacturing industry through high subsidies." In desperation, he compromised his plan to build a factory in the United States. But in the face of the United States pressing step by step, Morris Chang, who couldn't bear it, directly bombarded, "The United States wants a complete semiconductor industry, and investing a large amount of money in Taiwan province is the only solution." The reason is also very simple. The cost of building a factory in the United States is too high, and the local employees in the United States do not have the diligence spirit of the Chinese at all. This point was revealed by TSMC employees during the training process. This will inevitably increase the burden on the factory's operations. No wonder Morris Chang will negatively express his position: global trade is dead, and TSMC will lose. Bill Gates satirized the US Biden team again. After Morris Chang's showdown, Bill Gates also responded to the Biden team's approach, stating, "Restricting the technological development of China's semiconductor industry is doomed to fail. It will only force China to spend time and energy manufacturing its own chips. The United States cannot prevent China from having powerful chips." In 2022, Chinese companies have ordered a total of 97 billion chips. All of this is a chain reaction caused by chip rules. Naturally, American companies have suffered the most losses. Qualcomm, Intel, Nvidia and other companies have burst out of chip inventory. Serious situation. Faced with the double downward pressure on revenue and profits, major U.S. companies can only effectively alleviate the pressure on funds and ensure the normal operation of the company through substantial layoffs. It is weak in itself. If the chips cannot be sold, it means that a real industrial crisis is coming. However, China's semiconductor industry is still accelerating breakthroughs. Although it is restricted in the field of silicon-based chips, China already has full advantages in the field of corner overtaking such as quantum chips and photonic chips. At least it can guarantee that in the next era, it will not. How do you feel about falling behind?